fellow Africans, distinguished leaders, and citizens of our great continent. Today, we gather in a moment of deep reflection, united by a shared vision for justice, accountability, and the progress of our people. The events unfolding in Kenya, a nation long seen as a pillar of stability and progress in East Africa, have stirred the conscience of many across our continent. These developments compel us to confront a matter of grave concern, one that transcends borders and strikes at the core of our collective African values. I stand before you today to urge the African Union to launch an immediate and thorough investigation into the actions of President William Ruto and his administration in response to the protests sweeping Kenya. Protests that embody the legitimate grievances of a people demanding fairness, opportunity, and dignity. First, let me acknowledge the resilience and spirit of the Kenyan people. For decades, Kenya has symbolized democratic aspiration, navigating its rich ethnic diversity to emerge as a hub of economic and cultural vitality. Yet today, we witness a nation in turmoil, its streets filled with the voices of youth, the marginalized, and the disillusioned, all calling for change. What began in June 2024 as opposition to proposed tax hikes has grown into a broader movement against systemic corruption, economic stagnation, and police brutality. The cries of "Ruto must go" resonate not just in Nairobi but in the hearts of all who believe in Africa's promise of justice. The scale of these protests is unprecedented. Over the past year, more than 100 lives have been lost, countless others injured, and hundreds arbitrarily arrested. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has documented these tragedies, reporting 31 deaths on a single day, July 7, 2025. Among the victims was a 12-year-old girl in Kiamu, struck by a stray bullet inside her home. Another, Boniface Kariuki, a 22-year-old mask vendor, was shot at point-blank range during an anti-brutality rally. The death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody, with autopsy reports revealing fatal head trauma, contradicting official claims of suicide, further ignited outrage. These are not just numbers. They are lives cut short, families shattered, and a nation's trust betrayed. As a leader committed to Pan-Africanism and the empowerment of our people, I call upon the African Union to act. The AU, as the guardian of Africa's democratic ideals and human rights, has a moral and institutional duty to investigate the Ruto administration's actions. Allegations of excessive force, extrajudicial killings, and abductions demand scrutiny. President Ruto's directive ordering police to shoot protesters in the legs and break their legs to prevent property damage is not only a human rights violation but a dangerous escalation, threatening Kenya's democracy and setting a perilous precedent for our continent. Let us be clear, the right to protest is enshrined in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, a document binding us all. Article 11 guarantees free assembly, and Article 4 protects the right to life. When a government meets peaceful demonstrations with live ammunition, tear gas, and water cannons, it violates these principles. When a president publicly instructs security forces to maim rather than engage in dialogue, he betrays the essence of leadership. These actions cannot be dismissed as internal affairs. They stain our collective conscience and challenge the values we uphold as Africans. The AU must investigate not only the use of force but also the root causes of these protests. The Kenyan people are not protesting without reason. They are driven by a cost of living crisis, youth unemployment, and a government perceived as indifferent to their plight. President Ruto campaigned in 2022 as a champion of the hustler nation, vowing to uplift the poor and combat corruption. Yet his administration's policies, aggressive tax hikes, soaring debt, and alleged tolerance for graft have fueled disillusionment. The withdrawn 2024 finance bill, which sought to tax essentials like bread and mobile money, was seen as a betrayal. The aborted $2 billion deal with the Adani Group to privatize Kenya's main airport, only reversed after public outcry, further exposed a government accused of favoring elite interests. Worse still are claims of state-sponsored violence. Opposition figures, including former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, accused the government of deploying unmarked vehicles and armed gangs to opposition strongholds, a tactic echoing authoritarian regimes. Civil society reports abductions of activists, medics, and influencers, some allegedly tortured. These are not the actions of a confident government but of one clinging to power through fear. The AU must not turn a blind eye. Its Peace and Security Council has the mandate to address threats to stability, and the African Commission on Human and People's Rights can probe violations. I urge a joint mission of independent experts to investigate the use of lethal force by Kenyan security forces, abductions and extrajudicial killings, the government's response to legitimate grievances, This investigation must be swift, impartial, and transparent, with findings made public to ensure accountability. To those who argue this constitutes interference in Kenya's sovereignty, I respond, sovereignty is not a license for impunity. The AU was founded on collective responsibility, where one nation's welfare concerns all. When a government's actions destabilize a country and suppress its youth's democratic aspirations, the AU must intervene, not to dictate, but to uphold the standards we've set. Kenya's stability is vital not just for its 57 million citizens but for East Africa, a region of economic and diplomatic significance. I also call on the AU to facilitate dialogue between Kenya's government, opposition, and civil society. These protests are leaderless, youth-driven, and organized on social media, a new wave of activism bypassing traditional politics. This generation, born after Kenya's 1992 return to multi-party democracy, is educated, connected, and unwavering. They demand systemic change, not empty concessions. The AU must ensure their voices are heard and met with real reform, not repression. To my fellow African leaders, reflect on this crisis's broader implications. Kenya is not alone. From Burkina Faso to Nigeria, South Africa to Sudan, youth are rising, demanding accountability, opportunity, and an end to corruption. They are Africa's heartbeat. If we respond with force instead of understanding, we risk losing the generation that will shape our future. Kenya's protests are a warning, a call to recommit to justice, equity, and good governance. Speaking from my own experience in Burkina Faso, I've learned that leadership is not about silencing dissent but engaging with it. When our people protested, we chose dialogue, implementing policies for women and youth, prioritizing transparency. Kenya's current path of confrontation risks deeper instability. President Ruto, I address you directly. Your people are not your enemies. They are Kenya's soul, the dreamers and builders of its future. Listen to them. Abandon violence. Embrace reconciliation. History judges not by power wielded but by legacy left. To the Kenyan people, your courage inspires us. Your fight for accountability and against corruption lights the way for Africa. Do not lose hope. Your struggle is ours. The AU, I trust, will stand with you, ensuring justice and amplifying your voices. Let us now examine the deeper implications of this crisis. The African continent. What's happening in Kenya is not just a national issue. It reflects a wider wave of youth-led movements sweeping across Africa. Our continent is the youngest in the world, with more than 60% of our population under 25. This demographic presents both our greatest strength and our most pressing challenge. Today's youth are digitally fluent, globally aware, and deeply conscious of the injustices in their societies. They see Africa's vast natural wealth, the untapped potential of our economies, and the unfulfilled promises of democracy. Yet, they face daily realities of joblessness, inequality, and systemic corruption. In Kenya, youth unemployment exceeds 35%, with many graduates struggling to find decent work. But this isn't just Kenya's problem. It's a crisis stretching from Accra to Addis Ababa, from Dakar to Dar es Salaam. The African Union must see this demographic shift as an urgent call to action. We cannot ignore the ambitions of our youth, nor can we silence them through force. The protests in Kenya are part of a larger struggle, a demand for governments to focus on inclusive growth, invest in education and skills training, and create real opportunities for young people. The AU's Agenda 2063, with its vision of good governance, democracy, and human rights, must move beyond words and become a roadmap for real change, starting with crises like Kenya's. I urge the AU to create a permanent platform for engaging with youth movements, perhaps a youth advisory council with representatives from member states, ensuring young voices shape continental policies. In Kenya, such a council could mediate between protesters and the government, preventing further escalation. Additionally, the AU must strengthen its ability to monitor and respond to human rights abuses in real time. The crisis in Kenya underscores the need for a rapid response mechanism within the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, one that deploys fact-finding missions at the F.